and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast. My name is Sam, and this week we're bringing you a Qatar Grand Prix review, and I am joined by a duo that we've never had before, the Hungarian Grand Prix in, I think it was 2016, you said it was?
2018.
2018, that is poor. I knew it was an even number. The Hungarian Grand Prix in 2018 duo. It's Matt Collier and Robert Constantine. How are you two doing?
I'm fine. I'm really happy to be here again as a substitute, and I'm not the only substitute today, which is great. But yeah, on the topic of Hungary 2018, we never actually knew each other, so this is a really huge coincidence for us. It's really interesting. It's weird.
Very strange. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah. I'm all good, thanks, Sam. Yeah, strange coincidences, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it's a duo that we haven't had before, and we're excited to see what you can bring to the table. But yeah, as I said before, we're for a Qatar Grand Prix review. And first of all, let me get your thoughts on the race.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It's a different result, mainly due to one person that we're going to talk about him later on. But I think Qatar went just about as everyone expected after qualifying, so no real surprise there, even with the grid drops for Bottas, Verstappen. Nothing surprising really happened, to be honest, but it's a very good result that will get us into the final couple of races this season. It's neck and neck at the top, and it's great. I like it.
Yeah, definitely spiced a few things up. I think some battles in the Constructors' Championship have basically been decided based on this race. But yeah, qualifying was very unexpected. Quite a few drivers didn't perform as well as they'd like to, but overall it's a very good race.
Yeah, no, it certainly was a good race. So I definitely, in the preview, I didn't have much faith that it would be a great track, and I wasn't happy that necessarily that F1 was coming to Qatar, but I was willing to give it a chance. I didn't think that it would be great, but to be honest, I thought there was much more overtaking than people thought there'd be. And to be honest, I thought it was quite an interesting race. There was a bit of drama. I personally quite liked it, but let's talk about qualifying. Let's go back to Saturday. What were the key things from qualifying that you saw? Because there was a bit of drama and a few things with the stewards after qualifying.
I wouldn't say it was anything dramatic. It wasn't really drama, was it? It was just a case of drivers weren't paying attention to yellow flags, and it happened before even this season. Verstappen is always, he should pay a bit more attention sometimes to those sort of things. Obviously, I'm not blaming him, because it's a split-second decision that you've got to make when you see that flag. And I think there were some issues with the lights as well. They were, flickering yellow and then green and yellow again at some point. Yeah, really good result from Lewis. That was a brilliant lap. I don't think anyone was expecting him to take pole position by such a huge margin over Verstappen. But apart from that, no, nothing surprising in qualifying. No.
Yeah, going back to the yellow flags incident, it wasn't the most straightforward situation. A lot of the drivers didn't even have anything flash up on their steering wheel, and the yellow flags were actually quite hidden to the left-hand side. So the drivers were obviously looking at Gasly on the right-hand side. There were a few surprising qualifying results. You had knocked out in Q2, you had Perez, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo, and nobody expected Hamilton to get pole by quite that margin. I was saying to my dad earlier, why is Verstappen not slowed down? Because it was some 15 seconds before the double yellows and the yellow flags would have already happened. So, poor for Max, but he still finished second in the race, so it wasn't too bad in the end.
Yeah, not too bad. So, yeah, I thought Q2 was quite surprising. I was, as a Perez fan, to be honest, I was quite frustrated because I think that Red Bull sent Perez out in the wrong window. I think that the track had it had just really cooled down and it wasn't ideal. He struggled on his outlap because of traffic, and I wasn't particularly happy with the window he put in. But I still think he probably should have got out of Q2. You had Leclerc as well not getting it, and Ricciardo. So that's a surprise enough, I think, in Q2. Like having a Ferrari, Red Bull, and McLaren not make it to Q3. So that was interesting. And then, of course, you had the what happened with Verstappen, Gasly, Bottas in qualifying 3. But to be fair, I want to draw some attention in qualifying to both the Alpines got into Q3, both the AlphaTauris got into Q3, and one of the Aston Martins. So the midfield teams actually did really well in qualifying. One of the teams that I'll talk about later, which I thought would be doing very well and have got a nice little lead in that midfield battle, didn't really pull it through in the race. But in qualifying, I think the midfield teams did pretty well. But moving on to the race, there was incidents that happened. I don't think there's much controversy over them, though. You had she basically just had punches galore. It really was. She had Valtteri Bottas getting punched at lap 33, Russell on 49, and Norris also getting pitting with a puncher on lap 49. And then Latifi got a puncher. He DNF'd. Bottas DNF'd later in the race after I think Mercedes just gave up, to be honest. Or there was some damage underneath the car that happened with the puncher. So I don't think there's much controversy over it, but the only thing I'd pose the question of after those incidents is, do you think this is an issue that Pirelli should get stick for this, or is this just the fact that the curbs here are deadly?
It's just the curbs. You cannot blame Pirelli for this because all of the drivers that respected Pirelli's tire strategies, they didn't have any issues. Because this was supposed to be, a two-stop race, and it was a two-stop race, apart from a couple of exceptions, notably Alonso. But the curbs, there were issues in practice as well with Mazepin and Leclerc, where they had to basically get new chassis for the cars just because they ran out wide. So it's not like Silverstone last year. You cannot blame Pirelli for this, I would say. I think we need to cut them some slack because, I mean, the curbs, they're insane. They're not good for these F1 cars. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Pirelli some slack as well because we've never raced there. I mean, they've got no data to compare from previous years or anything related to Formula One cars. And as Robert said, those curbs are deadly. I mean, the state of Gasly's front right tyre in qualifying looked like some crocodile had literally bitten it. It was it was strange, but all in all, it was still a very good race.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you that it was the curbs. I only posed that question because this year we had Baku where Pirelli had some tyre blowouts, and yeah, it is completely unrelated to that. And it's interesting because all the people that had tyre blowouts, I know they had gone over the lap time that Pirelli recommended, but normally you would have some warning. Everyone reported that they had no warning, none of the data showed up, but I think that just shows how deadly the curbs are here, which kind of added to a bit of drama to the race, in my opinion. It added a bit of uncertainty towards the end. Alonso was running long and there was like, is he going to have a tyre blowout? But he kept it going and managed to secure a very impressive P3. But let's get into the team by team battles because there's a few things that were interesting, starting with Mercedes versus Red Bull. How would you compare the two teams' weekends? Because while Hamilton won the race, Red Bull got a lot more points and have closed down the gap quite significantly in the constructors to just 5 points.
Yeah, it's a good race for Red Bull in terms of damage limitations, because I think when they came in, they probably would have expected both of their cars on the podium, which didn't happen. And as for the Mercedes, the win was necessary. They had to win this race, and they did. It just really unfortunate for Bottas. Not only because of the puncture, but also the grid drop affected him mainly because he's not the type of driver that can start from the back and just overtake everyone, and fight for a win. He isn't in the same car as Lewis, but they've got different driving styles. So for Bottas, it wasn't the ideal start. He lost a few places in the first lap, and then after the puncture, he was running just outside the points when they decided to retire the car, because there's no point in risking, damaging the car even more, because it already had damage at that point. Even though I think the commentary team were asking for, were debating whether he should have stayed out, pit it for softs and then steal the fastest lap off of Verstappen. But I think at that point, Mercedes knew best that even if they tried to do that, it might have just ended up, destroying the car. So yeah, I think it was the necessary thing to do to retire that car. And yeah, 5 points between Red Bull and Mercedes. What can I say? I told you that it's gonna go down to the wire. I said this already, and I still think that Abu Dhabi will decide everything. So far, it looks like it.
Yeah, Rob's basically explained everything really well. As you said, I think it was damage limitation for Red Bull. They couldn't have really asked for much more. Closing the gap to Mercedes is what they would have wanted. And yeah, 2 races to go, 5 points separate them in the constructors. Is all to play for.
No, it's certainly all to play for. I think Verstappen did very well. I think Verstappen had a great race. He cut through the field really quickly, and yeah, I mean, even on the first lap, he was overtaking so many cars, and he made light work of Gasly and Alonso. But then he couldn't really challenge because I think he was struggling a bit with perhaps a bit of damage, and just because the Mercedes car is just so quick. Then Hamilton, fantastic race, didn't put a foot wrong. Not really much to say on him. Bottas, it's unlucky. I was frustrated with Bottas in this race, to be honest, because he started very poorly and he was stuck behind some cars for a few laps. But then he gets a kick up the backside by Toto on team radio, and then he starts going through the field. And it's like, why do you need intervention from Toto Wolff to finally get your act together and start going through? And every overtake was, oh, well done, Valtteri. Well, it was like they were just trying to coach him through. It was like he was back in the karting days where they were like, oh, well done, you've taken another place. He's in a Mercedes. He should be overtaking an Aston Martin. He had DRS on the main straight. It wasn't a hard overtake. So I was definitely frustrated with that. And then he did get really unlucky with the tyre blowout. But I think Bottas did definitely frustrate me today. I'm surprised when he got a place from someone pitting, the team engineers went like, oh, great overtake. That's one place, another place up. But yeah, frustrating for Bottas. I mean, Perez, I was frustrated with the team in qualifying. I was frustrated with them in the race. I think he could have pulled off a one stop. I know there was that risk with tyre blowout, but Perez has missed a tyre preservation. He could have kept those tyres fine. They didn't need to pit him again. He had P3 if he didn't pit again. Frustrating. He got really unlucky with the virtual safety car because he was probably going to get Alonso. The virtual safety car definitely came at the right time. But as you said, Robert, it's going to go down to the wire. 5 points between Mercedes and Red Bull is extremely close. And I'm very excited to see what's going to happen between the two sides. And let's move on to McLaren and Ferrari. It was, I don't really know how to phrase it. It's another pretty dominant over. I mean, it's not been as dominant in terms of their recent results, but in terms of results against McLaren, Ferrari were clearly better. You had Sainz finishing 7th, Leclerc finishing 8th, and then for McLaren you had Norris in ninth. Unlucky with the puncture, to be fair. He did have to pit, and Ricciardo in 11th. And that's 2 points for McLaren, 10 for Ferrari, meaning the gap between the two sides is now 39.5 points. How did you assess the battle between the two teams over the weekend? And this is done now. Ferrari have surely secured P3.
I think they have. There's no way for McLaren to come back. Not even if Norris hadn't gotten that puncture, he would have probably finished fourth. They would have gotten some good points, but it's definitely not enough to win that battle against Ferrari in the long run. But yeah, I think I was expecting more from Ferrari after qualifying. I thought they would do quite well, especially Sainz. He seemed to have pace, even though Leclerc he definitely struggled in qualifying. That's why he didn't make it to Q3. And he was constantly saying it on team radio that there's not much more I can do. Whereas Sainz, he had a good result in qualifying, and then in the race he didn't really do much. But yeah, I think Ferrari have done it. It's quite clear now, and McLaren really unlucky today.
I mean, Ferrari just have the consistency. I think that's really the story of the whole season, especially with Ricciardo once again not finishing in the points. I think that's 3 races now where Ricciardo's failed to finish in the points in the last 3 races. Carlos Sainz has finished in the points for the last 12 consecutive races. Just goes to show how well he's been driving this season. And yeah, Lando Norris was very unlucky. 7 laps to go. I think he was P4 at the time. It was basically a nailed on top 4, top 5 finish, and then his tyre just exploded and he had to pit. Still did very well, to be fair, to salvage 2 points from that race. And yeah, for me, I think Ferrari have wrapped this all up.
Yeah, no, completely. I want to give a shout out to the Ferrari double stack. A 2.2 second pit stop and then a 2.4. That is a very good double stack. That reminds me of, I forgot which race, but the Mercedes double stack. That might have even been quicker. That was very impressive. And say it quietly, but I don't know if this is even controversial. I think Ferrari could be very much up there next year. There's a lot of, no one really knows what's going to happen, to be honest, because it's a new car, there's new regulations. But Ferrari, with all their money, as the season's gone on, they have improved. Their driver lineup is very, very good. They're looking good for next year. And I do believe that they could challenge the likes of Red Bull and Mercedes, but it's too early to really tell. It is too early to tell, but they have been great this season, and Ferrari just did very well this weekend. Now, onto the midfield battle. I said in my predictions that I thought this was going to be the weekend that AlphaTauri wrapped it up. And I think it's ended up being the weekend that Alpine have wrapped it up. It's been a very interesting one. Alonso, wow, what a drive. What were your thoughts on this battle between AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, and AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, and Alpine? Because even the Aston Martin's got good points.
I don't think anyone expected Alpine to just be the team that dominates around here in Qatar at the Losail track. And as you said, I think we've all predicted AlphaTauri to win this fight in the Constructors' Championship, and Alpine have probably done it because the gap now. The difference between the two teams, 25 points. They were level on points in Brazil and Qatar. So before the race, they were level. Alpine are just dominating now. And as we said, in the previous podcasts, Gasly is AlphaTauri's only chance at good points, whereas Alpine had both of their drivers in the top 5. No one expected it. I think it was really good. As you said, Aston Martin, pretty good race. I quite liked Vettel's driving. He had some pretty good battles on track. That was really nice to see. But yeah, I think this result comes as a shock to me, at least. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm really happy that it happened, because it just goes to show how unpredictable this season can actually be.
Yeah, I said in Russia, because Alonso overtook Verstappen before it all rained, and then that's when it completely flipped the rest of the grid. And Alonso said after the race that he felt like he could have finished on the podium. And I said afterwards that he deserves some luck for once. He's been quite unlucky this season, and he's finally, after 7 years, managed to finish back on the podium. AlphaTauri strategists, I mean, they've had an absolute shocker this week. I remember watching, I think Yuki Tsunoda pitted after 10 laps. And I was like, oh, okay. He ended up pitting, and then Raikkonen, who I think started way down, I think he got knocked out in Q3 anyway, but Raikkonen pitted a lap later, and he was only 2 seconds behind Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, their strategy let them down massively. They even copied it with Gasly, and Gasly ended up falling way down the order. Aston Martin had a very good weekend. They looked really quick, actually, in qualifying. And Alpine, I mean, superb. It's not like the teams are doing loads of upgrades to their cars. You know, they're mainly focusing on next year's regulations. And for Alonso to be so quick in qualifying, and I mean, that move on Gasly, the first lap, that's Alonso of many generations, I think. And no, it's a brilliant battle in the midfield.
Yeah, no, it certainly was a brilliant battle. Alpine, just unbelievable. Both drivers, not even just Alonso, Ocon got an unbelievable result today. Though I want to talk about Gasly, because this is definitely just me overthinking it. But Verstappen's overtake on Gasly, him going wide at that corner, for me just looked a bit strange. I'm not trying to claim that Christian Horner got on the phone to AlphaTauri and just told Gasly to go wide on purpose or anything, but it was just very strange, because we're used to seeing Gasly make no mistakes, and then he made a really big mistake and conceded a position because of that. So I don't know, it might just be because I'm so used to how consistent he is and what a great driver he is. But yeah, for me, that looked a bit off. As you said, Matt, the AlphaTauri strategists need to, I don't know, they need to butt their ideas up. That was appalling. They have basically lost the midfield battle today because their strategy was very poor. Aston Martin were pretty great. I thought Stroll was amazing. Like, I think he had a pretty much near perfect race. Then Alpine, as I said, fantastic. And credit to Ocon. I know when Alonso got on the radio and his engineer got on the radio and told him, get your elbows out, try and keep Perez behind him. I think he put up as much of a fight as he could have done, because that Red Bull, first of all, is quicker. Second of all, had DRS. And he put up such a fight that even a few corners later, he was wheel to wheel with him. So fair play to Ocon. He did all he could. One of my favourite moments after the race was just seeing, during the interviews, Ocon running over to Alonso to give him a hug. Their teamwork's amazing. Alonso and Ocon at Hungary was amazing, and Ocon tried to return the favour. He didn't really do as good a job, but this track, it was inevitable that Perez was going to get him. But yeah, no, amazing from Alpine, and they've wrapped it up. It's pretty incredible. 25 points. Just did not see that coming.
Just before you move on, I just want to go back to that point you made on Gasly's defending against Verstappen. What you said may or may not be true. The only thing you have to think about is that is the normal thing to do. What Gasly did is normal. He's not fighting Hamilton for the championship. You have to to let Verstappen through as quickly as possible. It's the second team. You know, they're if Gasly had stayed in front of Verstappen for a couple more laps, you know, Max would have lost a lot of time. Tires would have degraded. You cannot afford to do that to the main man from Red Bull. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I get your point, but after everything that happened with Red Bull and Gasly, if I was him, I'd have felt a bit of I'm going to keep Verstappen behind me.
You're still racing for them.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, no, I completely get that. I just, I think you're completely right, to be honest. Let's move on to the battle between Alfa Romeo and Williams. Is it really a battle? I mean, the procession between Alfa Romeo and Williams, both of them, I thought Alfa Romeo did fine. 14th and 15th, unspectacular. Their qualifying was pretty rubbish, but 14th and 15th is fine. And then the Williams both just, they were unlucky, but they were nowhere before their tyre blowouts. Both of them had punctures, but even before that, they weren't exactly challenging for points or anything. So it's an interesting one. Nothing really happened between the two sides. I don't know. What do you guys have to say on this procession / battle?
I think you summed it up quite well. Nothing really happened, you know. The Williams before the punctures, they were just on their own, and then after the puncture, nothing changed. Alfa Romeo, both of them, you know, together, 14th, 15th, is it? I think so. Yeah, it is. I just checked. So, you know, it's not. They're not racing for anything at the moment. Alpha is not gonna, you know, take Williams' spot in the championship standings, just because of how lucky Williams were. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Williams shouldn't be where they are right now, but they were really lucky and it happened. And yeah, I think the focus for the Alfa Romeo drivers right now is to just enjoy F1 as much as they can. You know, they've got 2 races to go. And after that, Kimi's retiring, Giovinazzi going to Formula E. Just enjoy their time on track. I think that's what they should do.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really happened with those 2 teams. There's not really much else to explain. Yeah, they might as well just enjoy it. Russell's moving to Mercedes next year. Both Alfa Romeo drivers departing. They're not really going to be fighting for points the next 2 races. They might as well just enjoy it and have a few battles whilst they can.
Yeah, King Nicholas Latifi is the only one keeping his seats. The others are moving teams. We ignore the fact that Russell's going to a much better team. King Latifi is clearly the elite driver because he's sticking around. But yeah, it's a case of enjoying it, as you said. Ideally, final race, we want a podium of Bottas, Giovinazzi, and Raikkonen. Don't mind what order, but it's never going to happen. But all of their last races at either a team or whatever, because not George Russell, because he's going to get quite a few podiums and wins at Mercedes. I think that's there's no question about that. But yeah, that would be nice. And then Lewis to win the title as well would be the cherry on top. That's a dream. Would never happen. But yeah, as you said, they just need to enjoy it because they're not going to be in the sport much longer for the Alphas. Final team, Haas. Schumacher didn't come second to last. He came third to last, but that was only because of Russell, and Mazepin came last. Anything else to add?
No.
Yeah, it was a bit meh from Haas. I mean, even with all the punches and all the front wings, Mazepin still finished last.
Yep, it is. Yeah, we keep this section in the podcast because there'll be a race where they do well, and we have to talk about Haas when they do well, because at the moment it's just every week it's negative after negative. But there'll be a week where they do well. Like in Hungary, where Schumacher battled really well for some spots. We talked about him positively then, but yeah, it's a bit doom and gloom at Haas, but hopefully next season will be different and they can compete a bit more. But it'll be interesting to see. Finally, driver of the day. So I think, to be fair, I think there's a few contenders, but who have you guys gone for?
Well, I've gone for the one and only Fernando Alonso. 7 years since his last podium finish, and now he's done it in an Alpine, which, to be fair, it's a race-winning car this season, so it's not that bad. But I think it was a brilliant display of talent and perseverance from Alonso. Also, really good teamwork with Ocon. You talked about that earlier. I just think it made me smile when I heard him on the team radio, because he seemed genuinely happy for the first time in a while. He's not the old grumpy Alonso anymore. He was just happy. He got probably the best result he could have gotten, because there's no way you're catching up to Verstappen or Hamilton. So P3 is like a win for Alpine today. So yeah, I had to go for Alonso. Really good strategy as well. Fortunately, the tires didn't just explode, which is really, really good. Yeah, good for Alonso.
I was going to give it to Alonso, but since Rob said Alonso, I'm going to give it to Stroll. I think it's been a very tough season for him. He's not always made it out of the first qualifying session, and he had a brilliant weekend to finish P6 in our Aston Martins. Very good. I mean, they're really quick all week. The strategists were on point, and it's just a shame that they're not quite in this battle with Alpine and AlphaTauri, but they still had some brilliant races, especially with Sebastian Vettel. And yeah, I thought I'd give Stroll a mention.
No, I was also going to go for Stroll, so we're going to carry on the trend of everyone was going, but I'm going to give it to. It was very close between two for me, because I knew that one of you would go for Alonso, so it was close between two. So I'm going to give it to Esteban Ocon. He had a very good race. He helped his teammate the best he could. The camaraderie in that team is really special. I really enjoy it. Robert, you're wearing the French top, where the team is from, Alpine. So yeah, Ocon, fantastic drive, starting 9th and finishing 5th for a midfield team. Incredibly, it wasn't the best result of the weekend for the team, but take nothing away from him. He was fantastic. He kept a train of Stroll and the two Ferraris behind him for a long time. He was superb. Everything he did, the strategy was great. His defending was good. He just had a perfect race in my eyes. I don't think he could have done much more. So for me, he's my driver of the day, though. Shout out to Perez, who got wronged by his team and did do some good overtaking. You can't deny it. He did some good overtaking and basically got robbed of a podium. But no.
Just also, Ocon was actually catching Lando Norris. He was all over Lando Norris for quite a fair bit of the race. So yeah, Ocon, as you said, did a very good race.
Exactly. He was competing with Lando Norris, who we know is such a talented driver, and that McLaren, despite not being good as good recently, is still a solid car. But yeah, shout out to the Ferraris as well. They both had a good race, and Verstappen as well is a choice that we've missed out, and he also did well. But yeah, that's my driver of the day, and that wraps up our thoughts on the Qatar Grand Prix, the first of its kind. There's controversy over it being there, but to be honest, I thought they put on a good show. I enjoyed the race. We're next at Saudi Arabia for some more controversy about where the race is being held, but hopefully another good race.
What if Saudi Arabia will be, the best race of the season?
I mean, I said the Qatar race was good.
It is good. It was good.
It was good. It's just
despite all the controversy,
Yeah.
The Middle East always delivers.
It is true. They definitely
we have to focus on the racing aspect, not everything else. I do agree that there's issues with human rights in the Middle East, but we're not focusing on that. This is Formula One. We need to focus on what's going to go on track, because we've got one of the best title fights ever on our hands. So let's just enjoy the racing. And yeah, I'm really happy that you noticed the French top, because I don't have an Alpine t-shirt, so I had to represent them somehow. But yeah.
Yeah, you definitely represent them well. But as I was saying, Saudi Arabia next in 2 weeks. We'll bring you a preview. We'll bring you a review. We'll see who the lineup's going to be that week. It's a bit of a mix and match depending on who's available. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.